What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for February 3rd, 2023. I am Graham G. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great weekend so far. We did not have a SmackDown audio review last weekend due to it being a pay-per-view weekend. I was in San Antonio for the Rumble weekend, had a great time. We will not have a SmackDown audio review on the Saturday of Elimination Chamber as well. So we have one today. We're going to have one next week. I'll probably be at next week's SmackDown. They're going to be here back in Connecticut. I feel like SmackDown's always in fucking Connecticut for whatever reason. We did go to the one in Providence before Survivor Series back in November, but they were in Connecticut a week before that as well. So we haven't gotten Raw in a while. We had Raw here in Connecticut last May, I want to say, in Hartford. They're going to be at Mohegan Sun next week, which I'm looking forward to. They already advertised 2 matches for next week, a number 1 contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship, SmackDown Tag Team titles on the line. So looking forward to being there next week. So I will have an on-site report from SmackDown next Saturday here in the channel, but no SmackDown audio review in 2 weeks, the weekend of Elimination Chamber. So this I thought was a good show, the post-pay-per-view edition of SmackDown. We had several things advertised coming into the show, which was a nice refreshing change. Sometimes, especially coming off of pay-per-views, they don't advertise much. They really just kind of rely on the post-pay-per-view fallout and whatnot, which honestly would have been enough for this episode, because we had like a qualifier for the Women's Elimination Chamber, which they added late in the day on WWE.com for the show, a fatal 4-way, as we will get on Raw this coming Monday, to determine one of the challengers in the number 1 Contenders Raw Women's Championship Elimination Chamber match at the pay-per-view in 2 weeks. We had that advertised, a SmackDown Women's Championship match between Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. We had the finals of the SmackDown Tag Team Tournament with the number 1 contenders being crowned, Imperium against Braun Strowman and Ricochet. But the biggest thing coming into the show had nothing to do with any of that. And the best part about the show had nothing to do with any of that either. That being the fallout from Sami Zayn betraying the Bloodline at the Royal Rumble. What would the consequences be for Sami Zayn? What would the consequences be for Jey Uso and the rest of the Bloodline? That was really what carried the show. We actually had them start the show. Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa, all arriving together and refusing to answer any questions from Kayla Braxton, kind of keeping people tuned in for the rest of the show, doing a great job per usual of delivering segments throughout the show, wondering, where the fuck is Jimmy Uso? What's Roman going to say at the end of the night? They saved that for the final segment, as they should have. It was far and away the best thing about this show. This wasn't a great show. I thought it opened well with a very fun opener, but the main event segment was by far the best part about this show, and one of the best SmackDown segments I've seen in some time. So that was cool. 2 quick notes here. Pat McAfee was not on commentary on this show. I watched the show on delay. I got through the show in a little over an hour. I skipped through all the crap. I skipped through, the entrances, the recaps, the commercials, the replays, all that other shit. So I got through SmackDown in like 30 minutes. That would have been crazy. In like 60 minutes. Maybe they acknowledged it and I missed it, but it was Wade Barrett back on commentary. So Pat McAfee returned at the Royal Rumble to commentate the pay-per-view alongside Michael Cole and Corey Graves. I don't know if he's going to be back for only pay-per-views or what, but they did not address his status here on this show, which I thought was weird. Speaking of people at the Rumble but not on SmackDown, no Bray Wyatt or LA Knight this week, which honestly, I would love to see LA Knight, but at least with Bray Wyatt, this storyline has almost completely lost my interest. The whole Uncle Howdy thing and who is behind the mask and what's going on with Bray Wyatt, it has dragged on for so fucking long now, and his first match wasn't even that good at the Rumble, the pitch black match between him and LA Knight. It wasn't even that great. So you had that, no real progression in the storyline. Same thing with Alexa Bliss and the constant teasing. I know they're dragging this out till Mania, but it's way too fucking long and not interesting enough to maintain my interest. It's not compelling enough to keep me invested week to week. So it's hard to care. I'm honestly kind of glad we got a week off from that shit. No Bray Wyatt on the show, no LA Knight. They showed a recap of the match from the pay-per-view and the Uncle Howdy dive where he missed LA Knight by like multiple feet. But other than that, no LA Knight or Bray Wyatt on the show. We opened the episode, Beyond the Bloodline coming and arriving to the arena. We opened the show with the finals of the SmackDown Tag Team Championship number 1 contenders tournament between Braun Strowman, Ricochet, and Imperium's Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. Good match here. These two teams know how to work well together. They had that, not Nightmare Before Christmas, but the Miracle on 34th Street fight. That's what it was. back on the December 23rd edition of SmackDown 2 months ago, so they ran it back here. No stipulation, but higher stakes. And Braun Strowman and Ricochet actually emerging victorious to become the new number 1 contenders to the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, I did not do a SmackDown audio review last week, but basically what happened was it was supposed to be Hit Row in the semifinals against Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. McIntyre and Sheamus before the match brawled with the Viking Raiders, and they, according to Adam Pearce anyway, voluntarily took themselves out of the tournament. They eliminated themselves, were replaced by a team that wasn't even in the tournament, and Braun Strowman and Ricochet, who then beat Hit Row, ended up in the finals and won the whole thing. So the way that I saw this playing out, and the way I still see this playing out, I thought McIntyre and Sheamus would at least face Imperium, lose via interference from Gunther, and then face Gunther at WrestleMania, both of them, McIntyre and Sheamus, for the Intercontinental Championship at Mania. I assume that's still where we're headed. At WrestleVotes actually tweeted that might be the plan earlier this week, which I've been saying that for weeks. Am I a fan of it? Am I not a fan of it? I talked about it at length by now, but I still feel that's the end game, even though Imperium and Gunther had nothing to do with Sheamus and McIntyre losing this match, or, voluntarily taking themselves out of the tournament last week. And I thought Imperium would win the whole tournament, face the Usos, but I guess they want to avoid that heel versus heel dynamic. I guess not the only reason, but a big reason why the Judgment Day challenging the Usos for the Raw Tag Team titles back at Raw 30 worked so well was because, was it Jimmy, I think, that got hurt and Sami Zayn had to fill in? Sami Zayn is beloved. So once he entered that match, he became the babyface of the match, and they got behind him. They wanted him to win, and they did. In an Usos versus Imperium match, there's no real babyface dynamic. So I understand why they went with Strowman and Ricochet instead. Strowman and Ricochet do have history with Imperium. They got to beat Imperium here. And they're going to face the Usos next week on SmackDown, when I'll be there, like I said, in Connecticut, Mohegan Sun, for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Now, I don't think they'll change the titles. I sure as fuck hope not. Especially after, it would have been, because the SmackDown Tag titles are really the ones that the Usos have held for the last 2 years. The Raw Tag titles, they only won and merged them with the SmackDown Tag titles last May. They haven't even been the Raw Tag Team Champions for a full year yet. They've held those SmackDown Tag titles since the summer of 2021. They absolutely, under no circumstance, can drop those titles before WrestleMania, before they face, presumably as they should, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. There's been a lot of discourse, should Sami be in the Mania match, and blah. It doesn't even matter. Honestly, I don't think they're not going to do Kevin Owens and Sami against the Usos. That's the real match anyway. I know they're teasing tension with Jay and Jimmy. I love that hook about that, by the way. Will Jay be there next week? He was not on the show. Spoiler alert, he did not show up at the end of the show with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. He did not show up. So will he be there next week? Will they have to defend the SmackDown Tag titles? Will Jimmy have to do it alone? We're not sure. Jay almost had to do it alone a couple of weeks ago. Sami Zayn stepped in. Sami Zayn won't be stepping in now. And, it's a bit of a different story, so we'll see. But I like that about it. But under no circumstance should Braun Strowman and Ricochet, who worked very well together, and I thought their match with Imperium was enjoyable, should win the SmackDown Tag titles. By no means. Absolutely not. But the match should be good, though, and I like the hook with will he or won't he Jay show up next week. From there, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship on the line. Charlotte Flair defending against Sonya Deville. There was no real reason at all for this match to happen. No one clamored for a rematch. I don't think, anyway, from what I saw, between Charlotte and Sonya. They had their first match about a month ago on SmackDown, the first SmackDown of the year. Very forgettable match. Charlotte won with ease, and the feud continued anyway. If they planned on the feud continuing, with Sonya continuing to chase the championship, they shouldn't have made it an impromptu match, and they shouldn't have had Charlotte win as decisively as she did on that show. And it wasn't even that good of a match, like I said. If Charlotte won in a very good match, it's like, okay, let's run it back. But it wasn't even that good. This was better. I thought Sonya looked good here. This was probably one of the better Sonya Deville matches I've seen in the last year, at least since that match with Naomi on SmackDown right before the Rumble in 2022. I honestly thought this was a good match. I thought they had a decent match here. It was hard to care. You knew Charlotte was not losing that championship 4 days removed from Rhea Ripley having just won the Rumble, announcing she's facing Charlotte for the championship at WrestleMania. Charlotte is not dropping that belt before Mania. Could she lose it and then get it back? Sure, that would be fucking dumb. Especially since she just won it at the end of December. So the outcome here was never in doubt, but I thought it was a fine match, well worked and whatnot. I just don't really see the purpose of why they either made this a feud or dragged it out for as long as they did. I like Sonya, but I feel like she's regressed as a character, even in the ring a little bit since last year. She was on fire 3 years ago in that feud with Mandy Rose. But, she had to take time off for personal reasons, understandably so, given the circumstances back in 2020 with the whole home invasion shit. She was an authority figure for a while. She made the most of that. But then it's been, ever since she got put back in the ring about a year ago, which I was happy to see, she's been the ultimate stepping stone of that division. She has been a jobber for the SmackDown women's division. And it's impossible to take her seriously. I appreciate them announcing this in advance and whatnot, making it a whole thing and whatnot, but no one really seemed to care. We had the Viking Raiders taking on Butch and Ridge Holland of the Brawling Brutes. A good match here. This was really only designed to give the Viking Raiders a win before they resumed their rivalry with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, who came out afterward and brawled with Raiders. So pretty basic stuff here. The match wasn't overly exciting or anything. I'm not really sure if the crowd had any reason to care. The Brutes are popular and the Raiders are doing well in their current roles, but the match was really just designed to give the Raiders a win, and that was it. We then had not a number one contenders match, but a fatal four-way to determine the next competitor in the Raw Women's Championship number one contenders Elimination Chamber match at Elimination Chamber. I've said that I've said the name of the pay-per-view way too many times now. In 2 weeks. So we had Zelina Vega in there, Shotzi, Natalya, and Shayna Baszler. It was a fine match. I thought it was well worked. The women made the most of the time they had. I thought this was fine. Natalya and Shotzi both making their returns to SmackDown at the Royal Rumble. We haven't seen Natalya on the show in a few months. She got put on the shelf in storyline, I think legitimately as well, by Shayna. She got hurt in that match with Shayna a couple of months ago. Thought she'd be out longer, but she's back. Shotzi, I don't know if she had a legitimate injury, but she was taken out during the Raquel Rodriguez-Ronda Rousey feud on SmackDown a few months ago. She got brought back here, so they're back now on SmackDown. Zelina Vega working more matches. I thought she looked good here, actually. I've never been the biggest fan of Zelina in the ring. Not that she's bad, but I think she far excels in a managerial role more than she does in the ring. But I thought she did well here with the opportunities she had to shine. And Shayna was good as well. So a decent match here. Natalya winning, which initially I was like, why? I mean, I really just can't bring myself to care about Natalya being in the fucking Elimination Chamber. I mean, it's fucking Natalya, for God's sakes. That being said, though, I immediately realized, oh, they're doing this because they're in Canada. And honestly, that's fine. It's cool that Natalya gets to be on the show in Montreal. I'm sure she'll get a great reaction. It makes sense to put her in the match. She will not win. She should not win. But to put her in the match as an early elimination so the crowd can get behind her, they're in Canada, which is where she's from. That's fine by me. That makes sense. They also showed an angle. I forgot to mention this earlier. They promoted this coming into SmackDown. It was fairly lengthy too. It was a couple minutes long. It was from the night before. It was like a NASCAR promotion. There's some NASCAR event coming up this weekend. I don't know what the fuck it is. Clash of the Coliseum 2, I think it was called, or will be called on Fox, I think on Sunday. And they had the drivers there. Their names escape me. One of the commentators, one of the analysts for Fox of NASCAR was there as well. Basically, it wasn't just a NASCAR exclusive promotion here. We had Rey, and we had, I think, not the Profits. It was Rey and someone else, I thought. And then Dominic was there with Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest. Dominic and Rey went back and forth. They challenged each other to a race in the NASCARs, in the race cars, and Rey won. They just kind of got into it here. So they're clearly headed towards Rey and Dominic one-on-one at WrestleMania. I've seen people pitch, it could be Rey and Bad Bunny against Dominic and Damian, which is an attraction, but I think the real money is in Rey getting his hands on Dominic, which he would still be able to do in a tag team match, but I feel like it means more given the story they've told for the last several months now if it's a one-on-one match, because we have to get the one-on-one match at some point anyway, but to do it on like fucking Raw or something instead of at WrestleMania would be a waste. So I'm glad they're doing this. I'm glad they're going in that direction. We got one step closer towards that match with what they did here on SmackDown, and I thought it was well done. The main event segment, though, as I mentioned, was really what we all came to SmackDown to see unfold. What's going on here with Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, beforehand, before he went out for his promo, told Jimmy Uso, go find your brother. Where the fuck is your brother? How can you not get in contact with him? That makes no sense. And Jimmy says, well, we can't find him. And he says, well, go work on that. First of all, he was not happy. And he told Solo and Jimmy to go wait in the back Go wait in the truck. We got steak. We got sushi. Go enjoy your food. Don't let it get cold. I don't know how cold it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I know they weren't in Tulsa. They were in, where were they for this show? Let me see here. I can't see, actually. I don't know where they were for this show. The Tulsa was where they were for Raw on Monday. But, it was fucking literally 2 degrees here in the Northeast last night. It is currently close to 0 degrees. So, I don't know how cold it was there, but if it was anywhere near as cold there as it was here last night, you wouldn't want that sushi and specifically the steak to be getting cold. I admire that. But anyway, Roman Reigns went out to the ring with just himself and Paul Heyman, talking about Sami. I'm not even sure if Paul was there. I don't think he was. I don't remember. But anyway, Roman Reigns went out to the ring to address Sami Zayn. He said he didn't want to talk about Sami Zayn. He said he would rather talk about Cody Rhodes, which didn't get the best reaction, but I don't think that's an indictment on Cody. I think it was more because people wanted to hear him address Sami Zayn. But he talked about it briefly and the betrayal and whatnot and how everyone always wants something from him. And then all of a sudden, Sami Zayn emerges, black hoodie and all, attacking Roman Reigns from behind. Crowd went fucking nuts here. They went nuts for Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn gets on the mic as Roman Reigns scurries to the back on the stage. Sami Zayn says, "I've never wanted anything from you, Roman. I've never wanted anything from you." And he didn't acknowledge why he was with Roman anyway. I thought he was going to say, "I've only ever wanted your friendship," or something like that. But he didn't even say that. He just said, "I've never wanted anything from you." And we're going to need a full-on explanation from Sami at some point. But he said, "I do want something from you now. I want the undisputed WWE Universal Championship." And that brought out Jimmy. That brought out Solo. And they attacked Sami Zayn from behind. They laid him out. And before Solo could do his, running hip attack in the corner, I guess is what you would call it with the chair, which is what he did to Riddle and put him on the shelf, which they acknowledged here, too, which that was interesting. We could see Riddle back soon. Roman says, he tells Solo, "Listen, hold on for a second. Don't do it." He stops him. And then he goes up to Sami and talks right to his face, right into the camera, really. So the crowd didn't hear it. The crowd heard nothing of what went on here, so they probably have no fucking clue what happened. But Roman said to Sami, "Listen, you broke up my family. Jay's not here because of you. Jay would have saved you or whatever, but he's not here because of you. You broke up my family. So now I want to break you in front of your family in Montreal, Canada, at Elimination Chamber for this championship." And with that, the angle was made official. The match was made official for the pay-per-view. Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, as we all expected, for the championship. This was fucking awesome. Everything about this segment was stellar. Everything about this storyline so far has been amazing. They really have peaked with the Sami Zayn stuff as far as the reactions he's getting and how well they're telling this story. Listen, I'm sticking with my guns that I've said for months now. It's got to be Sami and Kevin, who was not on the show, and I feel like we might see him in Elimination Chamber. They might keep him off the show until then. The way I see this going is this. Because the crowd was chanting for Jay, actually. When Sami was getting attacked, they were chanting for Jay. People want to see Jay face Roman at Mania or Sami Zayn. Listen, it's not about the championship for Sami. That's not his end goal. His end goal is finding a friend. Finding someone who he can call his own, his brother, and, aligning with them. He thought he had that in the Usos. He thought he does currently have that with Jey Uso. But guess what? He's not gonna. Because come Elimination Chamber, Jay's gonna realize he's gonna choose family over a friend, over an ally in Sami Zayn. And sometimes choosing your family over your friends isn't the best idea if they can't be trusted. But he's gonna choose them over him. And all the cheers that Jay's been getting is gonna lead to massive fucking heat when he turns on Sami at that pay-per-view. I was actually thinking last night, can he appear on the pay-per-view? Because they're going to be in Canada, and the whole DUI situation. I don't know if he can be at the show, actually. I'm not 100% sure. Roman might just win clean. I feel like it would mean more, though, if Sami Zayn came close, and then he got fucked over by Jey Uso. That would lead to nuclear heat in that building. And then Kevin Owens in Canada reunites with Sami Zayn. Now they could save that for Raw the next night or on Monday or on SmackDown the following week. But I think to do it in Canada with the two of them would be fucking perfect. I really do. I really, really do. So that's what I'm hoping for out of this angle. Jey Uso costing Sami the championship. Thinking about it now, though, I'm not even sure if he can be there. That might be why they're doing the SmackDown tag title match next week on SmackDown. It is a great hook as far as will he be there, will he not be there? But they could always save it for the pay-per-view, and we may not see him until then. That could also be possible. The pay-per-view's only in 2 weeks. We only have 2 SmackDowns to go until the show. There's a 3-week difference between the Rumble and the Elimination Chamber show. So they could have kept Jey Uso off the show until then, and I think he has to be on the show next week to ensure they don't lose the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. I don't know if he can be on the show, though. I know Jimmy's had more run-ins with the Law in the last couple of years than Jey. I don't know if Jey can appear on the show, but not Jimmy. I'm honestly not sure. I really hope he can, at least one of them, specifically Jey, because they need to be able to do that finish with him fucking over Sami. Roman still could win clean, but I feel like it would mean more if he came close, but only got fucked over by who he thought was his friend before Kevin Owens, his real friend, makes the save. That would be tremendous. But yeah, this was a great final segment to close out an otherwise decent show. I thought the finals of the tag team tournament were great. I thought that was an enjoyable match. The Viking Raiders Brawling Brutes match was fine. The women's four-way was okay. Charlotte and Sonya was okay. So really nothing overly great from the show beyond the Bloodline stuff. This was really, as usual, the Bloodline SmackDown show. The blue brand is the Bloodline. And when this shit is over, this show will be in some serious trouble. They have some stars, they really do. But no storyline comes close to what they're doing right now on this show, on Raw, or really any other show right now, in wrestling, in my opinion. This is amazing stuff. So I'm looking forward to Elimination Chamber. They left me hooked with what they did at the end of this show and left me looking forward to next week when I'll be there at Mohegan Sun here in Connecticut for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. For SmackDown, it's going to be a fun time. So I'll have an on-site report from that show here on the channel next week. Stay tuned for that. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.